Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. In this update, we are going to check out the JASMY Coin's price chart because what we talked about in the previous update sort of played out and also sort of didn't. You see, if you remember, the last time that we talked about JASMY, we were right around this area and the idea was that, well, okay, we are able to find a 5-wave up in here and also this odds are is a correction structure. So definitely good signs suggesting we are going to hopefully soon witness yet another good strong move on the upside, and we specifically said at that point all eyes on this very important key level and the higher bound of it, and see do we have the power to reclaim it or not. So this part of what we talked about definitely played out. The part that didn't actually play out was actually having maybe in these areas another move down before we get another bounce back. Why did we talk about this? Because in terms of Elliott waves, if you want to argue that, for example, we're going to have our final low, or generally, let's just say this, some sort of a low around here, then okay, off of the lows, you have to be able to find a 5-wave up followed by a correction down. And this is going to be, in most cases, definitely not all, because there is no certainty in any market at any given moment. We are talking about different possibilities. So in most cases, this correction down, according to the bullish scenario, is going to be actually a deep pullback down. And we identify a pullback as like a deep one if we get to bare minimum somewhere around the 61.8% or preferably the 78% of the Fibonacci retracement level. And the level that we got a bounce in JASMY right in here was actually the 50% one. And let's just do real quick once more a bit of Fibonacci analysis. Yep, as you can see, this is clearly the 50% level. So I was like, okay, in order to have a deep pullback, let's cancel another move on the downside and then we can have our move up. And as you can see, this part of what we talked about in the previous update definitely did not play out. Question: does that mean we should be very careful, and is this a potential bearish setup? Well, I'm gonna say you really cannot argue just because this isn't really a deep pullback that we are looking bearish and we need to be quite patient. No, but having said that though, I do think there are some reasons in here in JASMY to still be a little bit patient and careful and watch the price action quite carefully. However, a lot of signs do actually point to having a rather good move on the upside. First things first, this is actually not my favorite. I want to make that very clear. But if you are a fan of classic patterns, okay, I think we can all sort of kind of agree that this does look a bit like a head and shoulder structure. And is it confirmed or not? The answer, maybe not necessarily yet. Why is that? Because if you want to say this is a head and shoulder and it's going to do the job, then okay, you have to see an initial move above the neckline, so far so good, followed by that a pullback and then a continuation of the move up. And the moment that in JASMY we take this important high about, let's say, 0.63 of a cent, yep, fair enough, this head and shoulder is confirmed and it is going to send us up. And the question is to where? You need to put your chart on regular scale and then measure the height of your pattern from here to about the highs and put this thing at your breaking point. There we go. This is giving you about, let's say, something like a 0.73 of a cent in JASMY, meaning from the current point we can have something like a 25% move up, which is definitely not that bad. But again, we have to have the continuation phase in order to take the highs first, in order for us to be bullish with more confidence. Now, second important point, you see, off of the lowest low in JASMY, what do you have? I'm still going to argue that this is actually a 5-wave up. So technically, you are allowed to argue this is 5-wave up followed by a correction down. And hopefully on a higher degree, this is going to be a 1, 2, and according to this thing, what's next? You know what? We're going to have a rather strong move up into wave 3 and 4 and 5. So again, this is definitely yet another optimistic sign. Now, here is a very important point. In case I am wrong and in JASMY this isn't actually a bullish setup at all, then okay, I need you to have your eyes on this very important low about, let's say, 0.52 of a cent. Why is this so important? Because if we end up going down, in order to take the loss at that point, you need to seriously reconsider this structure right in here. And although there is a chance that even at that point, we are going to have a bit of a bullish setup, but at that point, you just have to be patient and not think about opening a long position, okay? It is very, very important to understand that. Now, why did I say even if we go down and take the lows, there's still going to be, even at that point, some room to be optimistic? Here is why. I think there's a chance that in JASMY, we're going to have something called an ABC expanded flat, which looks like this. This is our initial move down into A. Followed by that, we're going to have a correction for wave B, which in it we are going to take this important initial high, and then a strong move down into C, and in it we are going to take the low of our wave A and go a bit lower. And for the subwaves, we're going to have ABC into A, ABC into B, followed by, there we go, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave down into C. And now, let's go on the live chart, zoom in a bit more. Okay, you see, I don't really have a whole lot of doubts about this being a 5 wave, also this one being a 5 wave as well. So I'm going to argue, in case we want to go down in like a very strong manner in form of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, since there is a chance that this is going to be just a zigzag structure. Okay, how about this? Maybe on a higher degree, we're just going to have an A, B, C expanded flat, and even at that point, this still can be a 1, 2, meaning what's next? You know what? Big move up into wave 3 and 4 and 5. So let me just conclude what we talked about so far. Number one, a lot of signs in JASMY do actually point to a continuation of the move up. Number two, there is like a very good chance that we are going to have our continuation from the current point, but at the same time, there's also a chance that we are going to have another move on the downside. Number three, I actually prefer the bullish scenario, suggesting we're going to get our move up from the current point. Number four, in case we end up having another move down in order to take the lows, that can be your initial warning sign, okay? It's not necessarily going to be like 100% confirmed bearish sign suggesting the bottom is not in yet. That is going to be your initial warning sign. And if you want to argue that taking the lows is going to be a very strong sign suggesting the bottom is not in yet, okay, at that point, after taking the lows in form of a 5 wave, I would actually urge you to be a little bit more patient and watch the next move very, very closely, because that is going to really decide what is coming in JASMY Coin. In case from here, we end up having a very strong bounce back in form of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, you know what? This is actually at that point an ABC expanded flat, and our move down is going to continue according to the bullish case that we talked about. On the other hand, if this ends up being like a very slow and choppy move on the upside, be careful. Odds are this is a correction up, this is a 5 wave down. In other words, we are essentially having a bit of a bearish setup suggesting, well, unfortunately, the bottom is not in yet. So for now, let me just say this. A lot of signs in JASMY do point to maybe having a rather good move on the upside, something like a 20% move. And as long as we're not proven otherwise, that is actually going to remain our base case. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in JASMY. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.